can't really see everyone, but you were great to see everyone this morning at this panel, and great to have Drew with us on the stage. So I guess before we start, why don't we make a round of introduction and then talking about what role we're working on, and also why we're here to talk about this specific topic about customization. Do you want to go first, Lynn?
Sure, of course. Hi, everybody. My name is Lynn. I am a designer and an artist living in Boston. I've had 7 years of experience working as a designer in tech. The most recent experience is at Motional, where I spent 4 years leading a team of very talented designers and researchers on designing robotaxis. Currently, I've taken a career break and go back to school to get my master in design engineering at Harvard. Great to be here with everyone today.
Great to have you, Lynn. Do you want to go next, Olga?
Yes, good morning, everybody. My name is Olga Perfilyeva, and I'm a product designer champion. I love working with teams on solving complex problems for users and businesses through creative design solutions. In my last role at BotKeeper, I managed a team of designers creating AI-powered products for accounting industry. In addition to being a designer, I also co-organize Ladies That UX Boston chapter. It's a monthly meetup with nearly 3,200 members that celebrates and empowers women in UX.
Okay, and last but not least, Drew, do you want to introduce to us?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not last. We're introducing you after me. So my name's Drew. My background's as an engineer, really. I started off my career running a manufacturing team, moved into mechanical and optical design of cameras and lights for inspection equipment. So I've always been very industrial focused. Then I moved into product management. I worked for a while in the logistics industry, especially during COVID, which was like a very wild time, right? You know, Amazon, like 2 weeks into the pandemic, was like, business is booming, let's all get back to work. And so that was a whole experience unto itself. And now I work at a company called Lumafield. We make the world's first accessible industrial X-ray CT. Think 3D imaging, but with X-rays. And so we're working with companies all around the world to improve the way that they can design products, manufacture products, cut waste, all that good stuff. So Kei-Shin, how about yourself?
Thank you, Drew. So my name is Kei-Shin. I'm a product designer at Stanford University, and I help design education platform to teach people from all academic backgrounds and socioeconomic classes to learn biomedical data science. And okay, so let's just jump into today's topic. So we want to talk about customization. So this topic is like really interesting because as a designer, like I work with a tool called Figma all the time. And Figma, in this past few years, I'm getting familiar with Figma. The learning curve has gotten higher and higher. It's become more and more difficult for entry-level people to use Figma as a tool. However, there's a lot of discussions about why, and it's one opinion I heard is that because companies are paying their designers, paying for the software for designers to use, so it's really like from the revenue perspective, it makes more sense for them to really make this expert tool for the expert users to use, and hence the more and more higher steep learning curve. So I guess this could be like an example, you know, to help us to talk about customization, but this is from my perspective, my understanding, but like I want to like having everyone on the panel talk about why you're the person to talk about customization as a topic. Okay, I guess we'll go with the same order. Ling, do you want to go first?
Yeah, of course. So at Motional, where I worked for over 4 years, to launch a complex and novel product like the robotaxi, we had to collaborate with many partners and customers, you know, of course, as well as our users. So from that, I've experienced firsthand the rewards and pitfalls for customization, where there were demands from different stakeholders with limited resources and a tight timeline. So I would love to share all of that, like experience, good and bad, with everyone today. And I think we have a really great discussion for that.
Thank you. Olga, do you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think customization and product is a very interesting topic, and I'm as a product design professional, I'm passionate about this topic and can speak, I'm sure, on behalf of many designers out there, of what it means to design solutions for custom requests from individual customers as well as from large partnerships. So this is why I'm here.
Thank you. Drew?
Yeah, my perspective on customization is one that's changed a lot through my career, especially starting as an engineer, like the engineer who wants to control everything and wants determinism and specs and all that. And when I made the move to product, the one thing I always try to select for is leadership, and it doesn't matter if you're a founder or, like, you need somebody as a sounding board and who's going to push you. And I remember my boss at the time sat me down, and we had just been getting our first product out the door, and he was like, here's a test for you. We've got this guy in Europe, and he's asking, can we do this very custom feature? We can sell 2 devices. And I was looking at it and I was like, I'm still the engineer. And I was just like, no, I mean, that's insane. Like, our team, we're already working crazy hours trying to get this thing out. It sounds like a bad idea. And he goes, you just failed that test completely. The reason we should do this is that feature, we're going to do it one way or the next. It's whether it's 3 months from now or 6 months from now, but this customer is going to pay a crazy premium if we just do it today. And so we should just do it today. and then, that led to one of like the best stories that we could tell for a while, where we had a product that the average selling price was like, it's, the hardware was the anchor, but we had software with it. We would sell it on average for about $8,000. And the salesperson, we went in there and we completely blew the customer away. Our competition had been in there and been trying for weeks, and we blew them out of the water. And the customer goes, man, this is awesome. He was ready to pay like 45 grand per or something like that. It was like this crazy premium where we had to tell the sales guy, you need to cut your price in half. Like that, you're going to piss this person off when they realize that this is just going to be a feature that's in our product, and we're going to charge nowhere near as much. So then we got this big letter about such a great price and how fast we could move. And it was just like a huge win for us in this big account. And then, it was a boat anchor towards future features that we launched. So that was a big like mental shift for me about how I thought about these things.
Wow, that's such a great success story for customization. Usually I've only heard bad, like tight deadline, like sleepless night, but that was great.
Yeah, I also want to hear what Ling and Olga think. Like, how do you guys all think about your thoughts on customization as a product leader? Is it all good? Is it bad? Or never do it? Feel free to chime in to Drew.
I can go first again. So from my perspective, there definitely needs to be a balance between building the flexibility for customization while also maintaining the core values of the product. So to give like a more concrete example, like a B2B example. So at Motional, we partner with different ride-hailing companies, Lyft, Uber, to launch our robotaxis on their network. And each of them has a very different belief in what makes a good ride, but specifically a good human ride. So in that case, they come to us for like expertise, right? Like we take their requests into consideration, but ultimately, as the experts in autonomous vehicles, we are best positioned to set the foundations for the robotaxi product. So that is, what is the must-have features that make a good autonomously driven car and not a human-driven car. So beyond that foundation that we set, which we call the core values of our product, beyond that is the area where customization comes into play and would offer a competitive advantage, and of course would build loyalty and make customer feeling satisfied with working with us.
Yeah, thank you. Olga, do you want to jump in?
Yes. So to add to what Lynn just mentioned, I also wanted to speak from the perspective of the product design manager. When you have a team and you need to ensure that the roadmap priorities are clear to the entire team, and everybody on the team understands that this custom feature is going to make an impact for the user as well as the business. And one of the big items that we need to clear out is ensure that the team has capacity to work on. As we all know, a lot of things are important and a lot of priorities push each other out. So we need to make sure that the roadmap is very clear and also continuously talk to the actual customers and conduct discovery to collect evidence. And make sure we make it public within the organization. So your team and the entire organization, including leadership, understand that what we are set off on doing is actually going to bring value to the users and to the company.
And as we prepped for this meeting, that was something that I think Olga had said early on that kind of opened my eyes to like how thick-skulled I can be and myopic and all of that, because she kind of framed it as like, well, I think it depends a little bit if you're talking about B2B companies, B2C companies. It made me realize my entire career has been like very industrially focused. And so like my view on customization is coming from a place where my markets aren't that big, right? Like they might be big dollar wise, but taking my last job, for example, Amazon could come in and become 50% of your revenue. And so like there's a long tail of companies, but like if you do what Amazon wants, Amazon was the one leading the entire way. All of the top people at Amazon would then go get hired by Walmart and by the other big people and do the same things there. So if you just did what they needed, then you were essentially covering the whole market because they were the market leaders and they were pushing everything out. Similar, like in my current role, we have a case study online with L'Oreal. Like L'Oreal invests a ton of money in packaging design and setting up labs and being very innovative. And so if you can keep them happy, those engineers end up proliferating out because there's not too many different places to go. I think it's going to be very different on B2C to figure out how to customize, right? Like you could end up customizing for a unicorn, like, and that person is off on an island somewhere.
Yeah, that's a really good perspective. Thank you for elaborating on that. I guess in terms of like customize, how to deal with the customize and two specific requirements for customization for one or a few of your customers. I wonder like how do you guys deal with it from your experience working with different companies?
I can jump in first. So just one good experience I can mention. It was one of the large partners that we had that basically requested functionality in the platform that we were building that we were not ready to work on and release to the broader audience. It was a single sign-on for a large organization that would only join and come on board with us only if we offer this feature to begin with. And we had many other priorities. And like Drew said, it all depends on whether it's B2B or B2C customer. In this instance, this was a B2B, a large partner, and the amount of revenue that we would get from building this custom solution for them was just very important to us not to miss. And yeah, I think we also were trying to think strategically, and it wasn't something that we just heard from a small customer. We knew that eventually this type of functionality will be supporting many others. So it was very beneficial for us to jump and reprioritize our roadmap and to work on a solution for this just one customer with many users coming on board. So that was definitely a positive experience of something that we decided to offer, and we had a lot of great learnings from that. And it was a scalable functionality that would work for many others in the future.
Thank you. Do Ju and Link have anything to add on?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Olga was mentioning, especially when if we already have like a tight roadmap, how do we bring on like another like specific request to fit that in? So when for us, when we receive requirements that are too specific, it helps to have like context and evidence for negotiation, whether it's to negotiate with our customers or with the internal teams. So firstly, we have to find out why customers ask for such requirements. Right, and like, the reason would change everything. Is it because they know something that we don't, and maybe we should listen? So like maybe they have like a bigger database of like our user or like their users that like by through the way of asking for requirement, that's kind of a hint for us to build something that they like a lot of other people have like wanted. So in that case, you have to negotiate with the internal teams to be like, hey, let's fit this in. It seems important. Optionally, is it because they had existing assumptions and like that's just an ask from their buyers? And if so, can we persuade them with our data and user feedback to steer them away from it? And finally, if we know the reason behind the ask, can we offer them something else that may be better aligned with our capabilities? Maybe like a step-by-step progression of like whatever they ask for. So it will always be a case by case, but understanding the core motivations help with addressing the requests more effectively.
Thank you. That's a really insightful answer. What about you, Jude? Is there anything you want to add on?
No, I think I like a lot of what I just heard. I think both Olga and Lynn have really good perspectives there.
Great. Yeah. Also, I'm really curious about. So, what are some of the pillars or metrics your companies or team decides to come back to constantly when making customization decisions? I feel like everyone sort of touched on that a little bit, but I think just to help the audience, if there are the key pillars or metrics like you always go back and reference to when you make such decisions, or like you even like tweaking such decisions.
So I know this is one of the, it's been kind of a fun but difficult part of my career is like if you go read anything about product management, I swear that it's all been written by people that worked at like Google or Microsoft, where there's like A/B test it and like, well, if 5 million people try one way and 5 million try the other, and the data will tell us. I've never had that luxury. So I've got general ideas of like what we try to look for. Things like, is the thing that you're doing, is it for a customer or a prospect? Is it to close a deal, or is it to expand within an existing customer? And sometimes it can, if it can help close a deal, that's really great, but that means there's some risk there, right? And so then you're assessing things like the technical feasibility, the size of the lift. And then the last part that I try to also assess is the marketability of that. So if I do take this customization on for a prospect to try to close a deal, and that deal doesn't end up closing, am I going to be able to resell all the work that we just did? Like, can it become a core functionality in the product, or is it something that, this company wants to measure golf balls, and if I make something to measure golf balls and we don't close it, how many other golf balls can I go measure?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I thought even for products at companies that haven't launched yet, we don't have the luxury to do A/B testing. We don't have like the luxury to get all that data to help us with decisions. Right. So for like earlier stage startup or like startup that is smaller than big Google, for each customization decision, you should be able to tie it back to at least one agreed upon objective. So not specific metric, but the objective that your team has agreed on. Better if the requirement can fulfill multiple objectives, and like that's like a gold mine customization decision right there. Like the most important thing is, of course, the team needs to be aware and hopefully align on these metrics and objectives. Because like if it's there and it's official, but if people don't agree with it subconsciously or consciously, then it would take a lot of time wasted to just like debate back and forth because you don't have like a mutual understanding. So try to establish that upfront even if it might take a bit longer, and then try to maintain that mutual understanding, communicating about, resources from all different functions to see if we can like take on another request.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's really important, like the supporting the company's initiatives, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, one thing that I would like to add to that is that, as a designer, and I'm sure if there are designers out there on the call, you guys will understand exactly what I'm talking about. We have the power of practicing lean UX principles throughout the journey of exploration. And we don't necessarily need to invest a lot of money and resources from the engineering perspective to build something. So we can test very quickly ideas that we can create very quickly. It can be something, just a quick prototype, just an idea, just go out and test it on the actual users as often as possible. And another big point for this is, as we all know, product is a team sport, and doing that and sharing and involving everybody on the team into the research call with the customers and these user testing sessions where you validate your hypotheses and quickly learn whether you're on the right path or not, would add a huge value to your team, having a buy-in, to proving to the leadership that if the request is coming from the leadership, that this was a great idea or not a great idea, and so on. So yeah, that's very important from the perspective of magic of design.
You just made me think of something, Olga, and especially with you guys being designers, I'm curious about this. I've had the benefit of twice being, like, once being at a large company, but launching an entirely new business in that company, and then, being at this complete startup and doing this. Every time we've launched something entirely new, we always talk about how ease of use is like one of our big deltas that we sell on. And usually what that means is we don't have a lot of features. You can't screw up yet. And then, like, in the spirit of customization, Kashin was talking about like Figma, and like as it goes on, it becomes more and more tailored towards like your super users. How do you guys think about that from a design perspective of how to like do you just give up on ease of use? Do you try to maintain it? Do you end up forking your UX at some point?
Sorry, Lynn, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just asking if Olga want to take it on first.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In my opinion, Figma offers a wide variety of functionality that can take your team and what we're trying to communicate to the users through prototyping to different levels of experience. But foundationally, it's very important to, again, I'm gonna lean into it, like lean UX. You don't really need to have your team invest a lot of time and resources into building something really polished. It can be something, and Figma, Figma is the best tool out there, as we all know. And they keep coming out with new functionality and capabilities, and at times it's overwhelming, and designers don't even have time to focus on tiny little learnings that you can do every day, because we move forward so quickly on things. So foundationally, Figma is just another tool that allows you to test your ideas quickly. You can actually be successful at that, and being hung up on items that are being released and new, and it's not necessarily that as important always when you're testing something. So yeah, I think that's definitely my experience. So it's just another tool. It's a very simple tool, I would say.
Yeah, Yeah, definitely. I mean, like we all love Figma, and like I agree with all of that. And from my point of view, so I just moved to this new house, and I just unpacked a lot of stuff, and trying to like clean everything and put everything in drawers is like a pain. But ultimately, the goal is to have everything that I don't use a lot hidden away, but I know where they are, and then like for the things that I use every day, it will be like there, right? And you can just reach out, so you don't have to waste time, finding a hat, finding an umbrella, stuff like that. Same with like winter boots, like summer outfits. So think of that as for design as well. So like you can always have like a very minimalist house with nothing in it, or you can have a lot of stuff in the house as long as you know where you can organize them. So that like your guests come in and they don't get overwhelmed by my 50 pairs of shoes everywhere. So that's kind of like the same concept with design as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think like both you said, I feel like it's what you're trying to achieve with this tool. I think they have pretty solid like basic functions. So I think back to our like topic, I think if they have a very solid basic functions that can allow people to do very basic things, I think that's a good starting point. And but it also goes back to like how to help the company make money. So this goes back to Ling's earlier point, like you need to align your team to persuade everyone. This is how we can maintain the team, make some money, and like moving forward. So yeah, so that's yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting topic to discuss. But
Yeah.
sorry.
I was going to say on one of the products I worked on, the engineers used Lynn's strategy there. I remember being on site and like we had a very like simple UI, but the application was just straight up failing. So I called the engineer and he was like, all right, go to the settings page, now go to the advanced settings, now hit tab twice, see how it highlighted the microphone, click on that, type in this password, now hit tab twice again, click on that. I was like, what's going on? He's like, you just went from the advanced to secret advanced, Nick's secret advanced settings. It was like, okay, I guess. But then shockingly, as you like started rolling that out, most end users didn't care and didn't even know about it. But internally, like applications engineers, they loved it. Like once they figured that out, that there was all these like secret hidden knobs that they could go, like they wanted to become the masters of the tool and really like making it sing. It was a very
it's almost like a speak easy, right? Like for the experts
Yeah.
or for the locals, like they know the way in and out, but for the tourists, like they don't need to know about it.
Yeah, love that analogy. It's like a speakeasy. Yeah, so I guess I also want to talk about like in terms of like communicating with team, aligning the team about the decision. How would you communicate with people you work with to how to communicate the trade-off, the pros and cons? I want to hear from your experiences. What are some of the like rules of thumbs or like really effective ways you can share with everyone? So I guess like Olga mentioned about testing. So I feel like bring the user's data, the user's code to the team. That could be a convincing way to show people what exactly the users are saying, the customers are saying. But I'm curious like how everyone else view it.
Yeah, I think it's very important to conduct continuous discovery. And when I say continuous discovery, you just don't stop. You talk to customers every week, twice a week, and you collect this evidence from qualitative research, and you talk to your customers not just as a product manager or as a designer. You talk to the customers as a team, because everybody on the team has a different perspective and different background. And engineers, it's very important to involve engineers into these conversations, because they have a totally different mindset and they have different ideas, and they also have different assumptions. And if they don't understand why we as designers are trying to solve something a certain way, so this is the opportunity for us to show the actual pain of the customer that they're facing through these continuous interactions with the customer and validations. So I would say it's absolutely a must to involve everybody on the team, product management, design, engineering. If you have a researcher, a dedicated researcher, of course, that's somebody who's leading the UI research. But a lot of startups don't have the resources for dedicated researchers. So who's doing the research? It's designers and product managers. And invite engineers to your recurring sessions with customers, and maybe a couple of them will attend these sessions this week, and another couple will attend them the next week. And so it will be very beneficial for engineers to understand the pains and frustrations that your customers are going through, to build the empathy within the team, and so that the entire team, then we don't even have to say things to each other. We know exactly what we're talking about when we're building these solutions for our customers. That's
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing. I think it's a lot of communication. There's that whole good product manager, bad product manager thing where just one of the takeaways from it's like write things down. So it's not just you saying stuff that's ephemeral, writing things down. And then I find, context helps a lot. And then it depends on who you're talking to. Like sometimes you're talking to the engineers about why we're doing a customized thing. Back to my golf ball example, right? There's a lot of ways to solve that problem. You can make a sphere finder. That's only going to work on golf balls. What's a golf ball though? It's a circle. If you make a circle finder, now you can figure out a golf ball. You can figure out a cylinder. Like if you come in and just say, we need to find golf balls, then you'll probably end up with a thing that only works on golf balls. And then on the flip side is like the customer success and the sales team. And trying to help arm them with ways to think about this so that they know what's reasonable and unreasonable, and they can start calibrating some of their asks. At a certain point, you just want them to be making the asks anyways. But I know recent experience I had at our current company is like our sales team got very risk averse. And like, if it wasn't a button they could click, people would ask like, can you do this? And they'd be like, I don't think so. And it took one person on the sales team bringing through an ask where it was like, can we go find staples in human tissue? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And like the other salesperson with him was like, seriously, isn't that going to be really difficult? And I was like, I think they solved this problem in the 80s, guys. Like, yeah, we can do this no problem. Like, this is easy. It doesn't exist in our product today, but like in 5 minutes, we can pull something out and show it to the customer and say, is this what you needed? Does this provide the value? Yes, no. Do you need additional layers on top of this? And it became like a very easy thing. So it opened up the eyes, I think, of some of the people on the sales team to be like, we should be asking these questions. We shouldn't just say no because it doesn't exist there.
Yeah, Drew, I could not agree more with that. Going back to the collecting the evidence and making it public within your organization is the key to make sure that the entire organization is seeing all the evidence and all the pain points of the customer that you're solving for, and they can get on board from the perspective of marketing and sales team and finance team, and the entire organization will have a buy-in and understand that that's you're on the right track. It's very important to make things visible.
Yeah, and in terms of making things more visible and sharing with the team, what I wonder, like, what are some effective ways? Say, like, is it going to be like maybe a snippet chat, like a message on Slack, and then, or is it going to be like a whole, a whole presentation, or is it more just like constantly nudging people? This is what I find out, and this is what we should. So yeah, or maybe it's a combination of everything. But I'm curious, like, from your experience, what are some effective ways to communicate these kind of things, given like everyone probably don't have tons of time, or they have different priorities?
I think I can speak from my experience working at CarMax. Even though we were a large organization, we were going through a lot of digital transformation experience when I joined, and we had one of the great bi-weekly rituals that we had as an organization is that we had show and tells, and every product team, including product designers, product managers, and engineers, would present for 10 minutes, only 10 minutes. It didn't have to be a polished presentation. It didn't have to be, we were always encouraged to just show real things that we are working on and do a little bit of effective storytelling to make sure that people know what is going on. So these show and tells, I know not everybody has time for this, but we would also record them and people could watch them later, and we would broadcast them through the video, and people would just join us and watch this on stage being presented. And we would also, one of the very important things is for those people that are involved in user research and collecting these very important pieces of evidence, is to present this evidence to the organization. And one of the effective ways of doing that is just, if you had a Zoom call with your customer and you recorded the session, just find those very effective snippets of the conversation where, the customer, while trying to test your new feature, had an exclamation moment, or you heard some yummy sounds from the customer where you definitely knew that you were onto something incredible. So, and on the other side, it doesn't always have to be a success story. It can be a story that proves that you're on the wrong track and you need to regroup and switch gears, which is very, very important. Not to be afraid to fail, because the quicker we fail, the more we learn and the faster we will get on track. So sharing these things with the organization, presenting and telling these stories is very, very important. Slack is a very, very cool, definitely very cool way of sharing these items too.
Yeah, definitely. Those are all amazing points. And I would even want to add more to the point of Olga's mentioning, to show the actual footage of your user research. So there are a lot of people who work hard on these features and product, especially customization features on your product, right? So at Motional, we had to make some of the addition to our vehicles with tactile buttons, and from the designer point of view, we know that it's good for accessibility and low vision and blind passengers to use the product. But from the engineer's point of view, sometimes they would see that, why are we adding more buttons? Can't we just use the screen? So just showing that experience of the end user, a blind person trying to navigate inside the car with the buttons that they built, it really showed them the impact that they're creating by sometimes customizing for a subset of our target audience.
You talked about effective methods. I think the most effective thing is to have that Buddhist moment of saying life is suffering and communication is going to be hell. Nothing. How many companies exist solely to try to solve the human communication problem? And all it does is make even more problems. There's a very simple project I'm working on that I made the Google Slides to say, here's what we're going to do. And then 2 weeks later, I found out that there were 2 different Asana projects and a Slack thread and my Google Slides. Somebody had made a smart sheet to run the schedule. And it was just a nightmare, right? And nobody knew that they each had their own little thing going on. Everyone thought they had organized it. One thing that worked for me, but it doesn't scale very well, is when we were running our first trade show, I essentially had a weekly air traffic control meeting. and there was like a Google Doc attached to it, and people could post their breakout stuff, but it was very clear of like, okay, you know, the person who owns the product, like, what's the updates on how we're getting this set up so that we can show it off in the booth? Okay, the person who's going to own logistics, do you have everything you need to make sure that we can ship all the stuff we need? The person who's going to own staffing on the sales team, who are you bringing? And it was just weekly, we could walk through it. And sometimes it was a waste of people's time, but you at least had like one centralized space, and then you could let everyone, you know, fritter off and make their spreadsheet of the Gantt chart or whatever. And it was like, cool, if that works for you, that's great. But I'm not going to assume this entire project is going to be reading all these documents.
Yeah. Thank you, Jude. Thank you. So I guess let's sum it up, everything we talked about, to help the audience to understand everything we talked about today. What are the 1 to 3 things you want the audience to take away from this session? I guess, actually, I guess I will start just jumping off what Ju said earlier about, you know, life is suffering. I think
that's the takeaway of the event.
Yeah, I think you know, like working in a product team, I feel like, you know, just keep trying to communicate in different ways. Sometimes a message gets through. Sometimes for whatever reason, decision doesn't get to made the way you want it to be. But I think that's like part of the job, is to just keep communicating and keep presenting the evidence among the team. And I think an emerging theme I saw is like, you know, communication and team alignment is the key to get decision made. So that would be like my takeaway. Just like keep trying to communicate and presenting evidence and collecting evidence.
I think for me, I think the big takeaway I would want everyone to have is that if you are having these challenges, like whether it aligns with your company's goals or not, so many founders would be so excited to have somebody asking them to customize their product, right? Like that moment is what people build companies for. Someone to give a crap enough to say like, this is almost everything I need. If it could just have X, then it's what I want. Whether you decide to do it or not, you need to figure out how that all aligns. But like, that's a good moment for a company. That means somebody cares.
Well said.
Definitely. And for me, I think I have maybe 2 takeaways. The first one is, you know, of course, going back to like the first few discussions we had, think about how customization can enhance instead of dilute your product values. You know, lean UX, like Olga mentioned, you can't do it all. So consider it a trade-off and align them with your objective to make decisions. And maybe the second takeaway leading from that is usually customization comes when a customer asks for a specific requirement. But as you all know, as experienced designer, researchers, and founders, you shouldn't take what people say at face value, because sometimes people don't know what they want. So it's more important to really find the underlying cause of the requirements. And 5 different customizations can have the same underlying cause and can be resolved with one well thought out feature that will make your life much easier. So communicate, discuss with people, trying to find the cause. And maybe a lot of people with big brains, you know, get together, can find a better solution for all of them.
Thank you. Olga, is there anything you want to sort of?
Well, it's really you guys said it all. Just I guess like one thing to add to what Lynn just said is really just thinking strategically about what you're working on, so you don't waste resources, and again, to not be afraid to fail and take on something that is challenging. And like Drew said, if somebody's asking for this customized feature, that's already a win. So somebody's interested in your product. So just go for it.
Awesome, thank you. So we have a few 10 minutes or so left. We can maybe open the floor for the audience, for everyone in the audience to ask questions to our speakers. And in the meantime, we're also going to post 3 poll questions in the chat for the audience to go through.
I also know there's a lot of remote people. Is there a way that they can ask questions as well?
There are. So we'll open this up right now. I'm going to post the first question, and I'll go around and see if we can get some answers to it. And anyone in the audience that has some perspective on this, because I know we probably got some product designers in the room, I'd love to get some perspective from the room. And so the first question is, in your company, which team currently has the biggest influence on how product or feature decisions get made? And how does that work in your company? Does anyone want to step up and add some insight on that? Any product designers in the room? Product development people?
I don't see founders as an item here. I know our founders.
Founders in the room? Founders and executives. So
Yeah.
You're in the product development world. So can
Our founders are heavily involved. My name is Rosie. I work at Suvi. We are a meal kit that cooks itself. So we have quite a lot of products that we work on. We have a product team, but it's quite thin. We have engineering, we have marketing, we have business development. But really, all of those functions are the founders and the executive team as well. So it's very collaborative, and we have quite a lot of people working on it together.
Thank you. Anyone else? So it looks like design sort of is leading the way in that field. We're going to move on to the next poll question. So when considering feature customization, and this is an important one, how do you gather those insights to understand your customers? There's lots of ways we can do it this day and age. And so what are some of the practices that anyone has seen in their company? Any brave early morning souls? Hey, here we go. Back to the CEO or executive.
I'm not a CEO. Use your product.
It's pretty simple and pretty effective, I think. Yeah.
Oh, we've got another one. Who are you? What's your company, and how do you do it? Go ahead.
Yep, I'm Steve Engdahl. I'm a product and go-to-market consultant. I also have a startup that does e-commerce for the seafood industry called Dealboard. And because I'm a product guy, it's user interviews. I think one of the most important things early on is understanding, is it really a customization? Or is it just the first time you've heard it? Because you might turn away a market requirement without realizing it. Or the flip side is you think something's a market requirement because you heard it from one you don't realize they're the only one. So those interviews are a great way to, without going to 5 million, suss that out quickly.
I was going to add on to the use your product is watching people use your product. Like I use my product all day, every day. I love my product. I'm the biggest super user, but I forget sometimes the stuff that I've built in. I remember going to a deployment recently, and this engineer, she goes, "Do you mind if you watch me run the scanner? And like, I want to set something up." I was like, "Sure." And she just started hitting every last button. She had not listened to anything in training, and I was like, "Oh, this is a nightmare." We've left some stuff pretty ugly where if like you ignore the training, you know, Lord knows what's going to happen. And so that was like a big eye-opening thing for me of like, oh yeah, I use it a lot, but some of these pain points I've forgotten about. And watching like the eyes of a new person try to touch it was pretty wild.
Exactly. I have the similar experience before where I use it all the time, but then like when I see the customer support ticket or like hear a customer talk about it, I realize it's pretty scary feeling when you realize that, oh my God, this is so obvious, but I did not see that.
Absolutely. And Kishan, we got another question out here.
Hi, my name's Jen. I'm currently transitioning between roles, but at past companies, we did a lot of sponsor users, and I'm curious to know with the customizations, how much are you engaging these customers on like a deeper relationship, or are these more transactional people are coming in and asking you these questions?
For me at least, these industrial products tend to have a high ticket value to them, so it ends up usually being pretty deeply relationship based. And this is where you get a lot of the feedback, right? You, like to Olga's point, we try to knock out a prototype as quickly as we can and show that as quickly as we can, so they can tell us all the things that they're surprised and delighted by, and all the things that we're wrong about. Right now, I'm on a tour with our CEO, going to like all the people that use our product the most. And it's been great. Like they'll come in and someone will present to us like, here's all the emerging use cases and here's all the stuff we want. And you keep in touch with those people. And like some of them, you turn around and like you find out that some of the stuff they want is because you launched it, but in a way it wasn't discoverable. Some of the stuff they want is stuff that you've been wanting to do for a while, but you didn't realize why they needed it, that type of thing. But then it's making sure that you're closing that loop and keeping it as like a very relationship-based thing.
Yeah, I agree. If I can add to that, what Drew just said, I think it also depends on the type of customers you are solving for. So if you are a B2C versus B2B, I think I would say from my personal experience, with a B2B business, it's mostly relationship building and going back to these customers and hand-holding when necessary, and also building trust in conversations with them. Not everybody is willing to open up. Not everybody is willing to speak in front of their manager and tell you their real pain points. So you need to really build these strong connections with your customers in order to really let them open up, and in order for you to really see what they're trying to tell you between the lines.
Great, Olga, we have a question for you. You had mentioned you're part of a UX group. Can you tell everybody what UX group that is?
Oh yes, it's called Ladies That UX, and it's Boston chapter. It's a meetup group, so you can find us on Meetup, Ladies at UX Boston.
Excellent, excellent. So we've got about 5 more minutes. For anyone else in the product development world, I've got a question for everybody, because we get a lot of startups here. So when you have feedback, you've got a product that you're developing, you know there's demand for some of the features that are going to be developed from your surveys, from your customer feedback, but you're working within a limited budget. How do you make a decision on which of those features you're going to move forward with?
How much are people going to pay for them? There's a good example of this that I've got at my current company, where we used to do a sales kickoff and we talked about what are the features that people are hearing about. And this one came up like 8 times, and I hear it probably once a month. And then on this tour to our existing customers, the first stop we did, one of the people brought it up and it was like, man, it would be really nice if we could get to a place where you guys could do X. I went, owner, I'm going to be blunt about this. I hear that every month and nobody has told me why they're willing to pay for it. Like it's cool. It's really cool. I think it's a great idea, but like nobody has told me why that matters. And I don't think we've ever lost a deal over not having it. Like, what am I missing? And he kind of went, yeah, in 2 years, I think it'll be a big deal. And I was like, okay, I still don't know why this matters to people. I do agree it's be a very cool thing, but like, it's hard for me to say we should spend time building it when it's a cool thing that nobody actually cares about.
Yeah, can't agree more. And I guess like from what I learned is that also like who are the customers who you can acquire with the cheapest cost. So maybe like referral and maybe like social media, but not like a customer like a sales team. If you don't have a sales team, maybe just find out ways to find your customers with the cheapest cost.
Insightful. A couple more minutes. Anyone else want to throw a question out there? All right, I've got another one for you guys. You've designed for B2B or B2C, is there any difference how you approach the product development if you're going after businesses or you're going after consumers?
Lynn and Olga, had either of you guys done B2C? I know it's definitely a huge blind spot for me. I've done lemonade stands. That's about it.
I've done
Yeah,
B2C.
definitely. So,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I feel like we've been talking about B2B quite a lot. So like, Olga, if you have experience with B2C, would be great to have.
Yeah, so with B2C, I guess a lot of conversations with customers, individual conversations with customers that are, are requesting different things and documenting everything thoroughly, and adding it to the backlog as ideas and identifying whether there are some patterns that are emerging, and there is actually something that you can somebody's requesting one custom feature, and if it's just a single customer and you've never heard of that request from anybody else, it will be in the backlog. It may just die in that backlog and never come back to reality. But if multiple customers are requesting something that is similar, and you keep documenting it, and eventually you see that there's a pattern that is emerging of all these requests, then it's definitely something valuable that more than just one of your customers want. So yeah, just keeping track and documenting these items is very important. And also working closely with customer service. If you do have customer service team, they are the closest to the user problems on a regular basis. If your product team talks to users once a week or twice a week, this is great. But customer service talks to these users on a daily basis, multiple times a day. And there should be also a document from the customer service team that documents all these requests and problems that are emerging from these conversations with our users.
Wonderful. Well, you have been a really great audience. We just ran out of time, but lots of insights came out of this session, and you all did a really wonderful job, coast to coast. So